podcast to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. And this week we have a combo episode. We have the folks who have created something that I think is truly amazing. I hope, and I think you will too. We have on Josh D. Weiss and Sunita Deshpande. They are the co-founders of the Sideshow, and the Sideshow was created during the COVID lockdown during the summer of 2020. Sunita and Josh, there in 2020, realized there was no central place for all the side projects people were creating, and thus the Sideshow was born. Under its original format, a yearly award show, it ran for 2 years. And during that time, nearly 1,000 projects were submitted. These are projects, just a little note here, side projects from people working in advertising or creative communications that don't really have to do with anything advertising. And they'll talk about that. But they did that for 2 years. Like I said, 1,000 projects were submitted, thousands of dollars were given out for awards, and the show hosted almost 30 live events for its creative week. And after nearly a 2-year break, a corrupted server move, and a complete site redesign, the Sideshow is back under a new and improved format. With the relaunch, there are no more extended submission fees, and all projects submitted will be indexed on the site. Judges will regularly look at the entries to pick which ones deserve extra recognition to join their featured gallery. This is good stuff. I'm excited for you guys to learn about this. You can look through their gallery. You can submit your side project. I always say that, yes, you need to study advertising to break into it. You need to know who's winning, who's losing. You need to read the ad trades, but you also need to flex that creative muscle and do something fun on the side, whether it's playing guitar or writing poetry or all the stuff you can see on the Sideshow. This is good inspiration, good motivation. You're going to want to connect with these founders. To do that or to learn more, head to thesideshow.org, and there is a contact section there. And also, I'm doing this thing every episode now. If you leave a 5-star review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and Apple Podcasts has this little comment section, like a little review that you can write, that would mean a lot to me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Gino Schellenberger, and say you did that, and I will do my best to connect you with any of our past guests. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Sunita Deshpande and Josh Weiss, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How the heck are you both today?
The weather in New York is fabulous today, so I'm fabulous.
Nice.
If you're lucky, it's not raining.
The weather in LA is usually pretty fabulous, so
You got it. You got it made over there. And Chicago's not bad today, I don't think. I haven't been outside in a while, but I think it's pretty nice. We got a couple time zones covered here. I'm excited to talk with you both mainly about the Sideshow. How do you guys pronounce, do you have like a fun way to pronounce it, like when you're talking about it, or is it just me being 5 o'clock weird Gino?
It's just the Sideshow. We've always
the Sideshow.
Yeah.
Well, how do we want to talk about this? I think first, let's talk about you two individually, how you guys met, and then we'll get into the Sideshow implications for students, why they should be, or aspiring advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
Really, we know we're talking to the entry-level people. We can talk about how the Sideshow might help them. Does that kind of framework work with you all?
Yeah, because kind of the story of how we met and how we became friends and ends up leading to the creation of the Sideshow. So it all kind of together that way.
All right. Well, who wants to kick us off then?
For all you Golden Girls fans, picture it like Sicily, but it was LA. What was it, Josh? 2020?
Yeah.
Great year.
No, it was 2019 because it's pre-COVID.
Yes, it was pre-COVID. Okay, so picture it, LA, 2019. I had just moved out there, and I did not know anybody. I'm Sunita. And I was looking for advertising jobs, and I also act. So I had just gotten a part on a show called Daredevil. I was in 8 episodes. And so I was like, time to move. And so I told my on and off again boyfriend, I'm moving to LA. And I landed and I had some heat because I had 8 episodes on a Marvel show. And then things were starting to get weird because of COVID. But right before it got weird, I posted on Fishbowl, hey, I'm new in now that I was like saying this, it's so weird.
You
And I was like,
it's good.
do I know does anyone like out here, can you meet up? I'm a copywriter by trade. I've been at this place. I went to Miami ad school. I did the ad masters program there. And I was talking about the agencies I've worked at. So Berlin Cameron, J. Walker Thompson, Pharma, FCB Health, just all the places I can ask. Does anyone want to meet up? And so then cut to Josh.
Yeah. So this was like October, I think, of 2019. And I was between freelance gigs. I think I had just finished up somewhere. And I was like, well, I have nothing else to do. Do you want to meet up? Because I'm always just like open to meeting people. And, the way I'd actually like done one of my other side projects that had gotten some press and ad week was because I had just like gotten coffee with someone and like we hit it off and I kind of pitched this idea and we ran with it. And so, with Sunita, we just started talking, we hit it off. And then kind of at some point, a few months later, I had wanted to do an alphabet book for my nephew. And so I had asked if Sunita wanted to write it. And so we kind of like had been meeting up in person to figure out what we were going to do and what each letter would be. And I started illustrating it and COVID happened. And like Sunita, just right before it got really bad, went right back to New York, didn't want to be in LA.
My boyfriend at the time was like, he was like, yeah, this COVID thing, just come here, crash with me for 3 months. Cause I'm like, I don't live with guys ever. And so I was just like, I can't do that. I'm a good Indian girl. He was just like, live with me for 3 months, crash with me. It'll be fine. It'll be over. He's Mr. OCD. He had all masks and everything prepared and ready to go. So I remember being in Santa Monica and listening to this podcast called Behind the Baller. And I remember he was like, I'm telling you, this COVID thing's going to be huge. He's just like talking about how bad it is. And so I remember I was like, okay, Josh, I'm just going to go crash with this guy for a little bit, 3 months, I'll come back. But I literally was like, I remember it was like March 14th or March. And he was right around this time.
Yeah.
And I was
wow,
I'm trained back. I mean, I was just like, I told the Airbnb lady, I'm like leaving. I was trying to find a place to live. It was just such a mess. But I just remember packing my stuff and just heading to the airport. And I'm so glad I did because I got back right under the gun.
So what were your intentions in LA? You were trying to make it out there and find a job, or were you just...
No, I think it was a couple of things. Like I love LA. I love, I have a lot of friends out there. I wasn't in a very serious relationship, was very on and off. So I was just like, yeah, I really want to move to Santa Monica. I just got this part on this show. If you have some heat under you, you might as well head out there. And that's a good credit to have was what I did. So I was freelancing in advertising. So working from home and doing the copywriting stuff. But then at the same time, I was also whenever I got chances to act, I got to act. So that's what I was doing.
Incredible. And Josh, you wanted to work on the alphabet book for family member, you said?
Yeah, for my nephew. And so, we finished the book. It took a few months to get it all together. And then this guy, who's now a creative director at High Dive, he made his own podcast about the different projects and things that people were making during COVID. And so he had Sunita and I on the show. And then afterwards, him and I had talked for a little bit. And we just kind of were joking around about an award show that it ended up kind of morphing into an award show for side projects. I asked if he wanted to do it, and he's like, I'm too busy. And so kind of just if he's not interested, then it's probably not a great idea. And so I just kind of sat on it for a while. And then, COVID kept going. No one was hiring or freelancing at all during those first few months afterwards. Mm-hmm. And, I messaged Sunita and we got on a call and we were both just really depressed because neither of us had been working. We didn't know what was going on. And I was just kind of like, well, here's this idea that this other person didn't want to work on. I don't know if it's actually worth anything. And then like, as soon as she heard it, just like eyes lit up, got super excited. And I was like, okay, well, maybe there is something there. And so we started talking about it. We, got into Google Slides and started basically making like a skeleton of what we thought we would need to do. And after like a week, it was like, oh, this is going to be like a lot of work. We're going to need more help. So we reached out to 4 other people who we knew through, LinkedIn and the internet, because like they had done side projects that had taken off. And I was like, this might be something they're interested in helping out with. So like we had Bree Fernandez and Laura Canzano, who were doing Breaking Ad. We had Camila, who does Pimp My Portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maddie Kramer was the 4th, and she'd done like the woman card, in Invisible Creatives. Did she do the woman card or was that someone else? But she did Invisible Creatives either way.
Okay.
And so,
again, like a dream team consulting, maybe they want to help out.
Yeah. So yeah, we got everyone together. We walked them through what we were doing and like where we needed help, and kind of like broke up the work, based on like where we thought people would be good. Like Camila helped us with the website, for instance. That makes sense. And then Bree and Laura, like, we're focusing on our student like we had a student competition that was like a little bit separate. But yeah, so we started doing that, and it was like a week more, and it was kind of like we started like really filling out the stack of like everything that needed to get done. And it was like, we're just going to need more people. And so we started we put out an open call, and I think we ballooned up to like somewhere between 16 and 20 people for the first year, and just like gunned it. 6 weeks from the day that like I talked to Sunita to launch, like is how long it took to put everything together.
Nice.
And then from there, like, I think we had a 2 or 3 month window where like people could submit stuff, and we were just kind of generating interest, to get people to submit. We had decided that like, because we had no overhead, and like we weren't going to do trophies, it was kind of like, we'll just use the submission fees to, like that's going to be the prize. Like if you win a best in category or best in show, you get X amount of money, when we're guaranteeing at least like $500 for best in show. But then like the more people that submit, that money is going to just raise the prizes for each individual category.
Yeah.
And it kept growing and growing. I think towards the end, we had somewhere like around 500 something submissions. Yeah, we had like 60 judges that we got. A lot, like a significant number. Like I say significant numbers, and more than half were like people who had done like one show judging or can. And then like the other people were like, CDs at some of like the best agencies around the country. It was a really good mix. We had set out from the beginning. It was like, we're going to, make this as diverse a jury as we can. It was just like baked into our DNA. So it was like we were aiming for 50% women, which I think we hit. And just like,
people of color,
people of color.
We really wanted to make sure that everyone is represented. And if you've watched Mad Men, or if you're a fan of those type of shows, what they do show a lot of the times is it is a lot of white people making decisions. And there has been, since the 60s, Ad Color, trying to get people of color, all different diverse backgrounds in advertising agencies. And for some reason, nothing is ever stuck. If you still go to ad agencies now and really vet them out, they are still predominantly white, very much so. This had a lot of meaning for me as an Indian woman, because I was the only person of color at one point at the ad agencies that I've been at. Definitely the only woman of color. For some reason, people always assume that the woman of color, the girl, is the art director. I don't know why, but the copywriter, to be a copywriter as well, making jokes and thoughts and all that stuff, which I absolutely love to do. You don't really see it very much. And it can be a very tough atmosphere. You can feel ostracized often. A lot of times it does turn into boys clubs, or bros clubs, right? And it's very impossible to work on the coolest projects because you're not one of the boys. So for me, when Josh said the side show, like, could we have a show for side projects? I thought that was absolutely brilliant. on so many levels because it was a way to get people from the top agencies, the top CCOs, which usually you have to pay $1,300 to enter an average advertising show. It's really expensive. It's kind of like when somebody does like an equestrian sport or something like that. It's extremely expensive. I never realized, even like right with the I, Tonya movie, I'd never realized how expensive it is to learn how to be an ice skater to compete professionally. Advertising is very much the same way too. Like if it doesn't pay very well in the beginning. And again, there's a lot of racism, a lot of internalized misogyny and externalized misogyny. There's a lot of LGBTQ issues. So like the fact that this is going to be able to shine a light for everyone, it was going to be one of our categories is going to be absolutely free to enter. It was, and then the other ones were $10 a pop. I totally lit up on the phone because I told Josh, I was like, that's a brilliant idea. Everyone's going to be able to get seen and get a fair shot.
And so that was some more background on that. I had done that other side project I was talking about, the one where I had met someone randomly. That was Cindy Hamill, and we did this thing called Trump Rio Grande. And when I was applying to jobs, I had a few people tell me that I should submit it to the award shows. And so I started looking into it and realizing like how expensive it was to actually submit. And it was like, you kind of realize that these award shows aren't for the creatives, they're for the agencies. And so I was like, well, what if, and that was kind of the point of the sideshow, was like, well, what if we made this for creatives by making the barrier to entry just as low as possible? And like, there was talk at one point, like, do we make all the categories free, or do we like charge at least a minimal amount? So we settled on like $10 for every other category besides social good. And that let us just make all that money prize money. So,
and our social good category was for free to be seen. But Josh had also come up with this brilliant line of the same eyes of the D&AD, the Clios, the one shows on your projects for just $10, right? And then we gave back everything. Everybody, we didn't make any profit.
Yeah, our goal is to be like net revenue 0. Just like we cover the expenses, and then every other dollar just goes right out that.
Right.
And if the same eyes of, Chiat, right, or some of these top agencies, Mischief, are on your project, there's a really good chance there's many people who've been offered jobs, interviews, or even coffee meet and greets because of their side projects. It's a great way to get in the door because you didn't have to work on banner ads or something. What if you have nothing to show, right? So except what is like basically your side project, your passion project, it shows so much about you. So like Rio Grande shows so much about Josh, which I love. And
it's brilliant. I've been following this since you guys started, and I thought it was incredible, and I still think it is. I want to know, what are people submitting, right? We know it's a sideshow. So are they submitting their campaigns that they worked at their agency at, or on their spec work? What are they submitting?
So our main rule is no branded work. So it's like spec campaign for Nike. That's not what this is for. It's for things that you do outside of advertising that let you show your creativity. So like,
yes,
your podcast is on there. People have done submitted their books. There was the Best in Show last year was like a resource center for breast cancer survivors, I think, with like We Are Perky. So, like someone like Side Business, like they had done like a cider or a company.
Why this route? Why the side projects?
Just because it's your chance to show how creative you can be outside of the confines of your 9 to 5. Like, I think the generally accepted reality of advertising is that it's not terribly creative at the moment. And like a few people every here and there will have opportunities, but most people are working on stuff that like, you're not super excited about showing your friends, but just because you're working on banner ads or emails, like doesn't mean you're not creative. You just don't have the opportunity. Like there's this quote that wrongly gets attributed to Einstein, but it's just like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, not every, that's just a really terrible way of judging genius.
Right.
And
I had a friend today that actually emailed me a blog. He's like, I'm thinking about starting a blog, and he's in finance.
Mm-hmm.
So could he, if he builds out this system, is it for advertising professionals only that have a side project?
Yeah, it is. It is for people who are in advertising.
Creative communications. Yep.
Yeah, our
Media,
Mhm.
advertising creatives.
Yeah.
our kind of elevator pitch is, well, at least it was for the first few years because our format has changed, and we can go into that in a little bit. But it's the world's first award show for people in the advertising, or the side projects of people in the ad and design communities.
I love it. Because a lot of people have these side projects.
Mhm.
Do you know, like, roughly, like, I mean, if you had an estimate of like, well, what percent of advertising professionals have a side project? What would you guess?
I couldn't even tell you, but I mean, I think what is considered a side project, some people may not even think about it. Like, you look at a lot of art director and copywriter of advertising books, and they'll have a photography section that
Mhm.
is like a side project if you're shooting on any regular basis. And I think, part of the problem that we were trying to solve too is like, because there had not been a place to showcase these projects, they were just kind of living for like a day on LinkedIn if you posted it there. And then
Right.
you'd have it on your website. But if someone wasn't looking at your website, they'd never even know it existed. So it was like, how can we create a place that catalogs all of these things so that people can like, browse them, like you get more
Get
exposure.
inspired. Yep.
Yeah. And then like, say, again, like what Sunita's saying is like, if a creative director is like looking for new talent, like that's a different way of finding people who may have kind of a skill in something that they're looking for that they may not have, like, it might be hard to explain to a recruiter because it's not something that they would traditionally look for.
If you're really into music as a creative director, for instance, and if somebody had a DJ side project, something like that, that's a commonality, a common ground where, well, like, pun intended, but you're going to vibe with that person, right? So
Yeah.
if you've been working on like Benadryl banners all day, they can only get so creative, right?
You're
But
gonna
it's
feel
still
like you're on
catchy.
Benadryl.
Yeah, you just you want to be able to still be very creative at something. And so I would say I've seen in most people's books, they have a hobby of some sort. And I love that because, again, you get to see like, oh, this person's into tarot cards. I'm in need. Or like, oh, this person, my favorite category is the what the fuck category. What the heck is this? Like or stand up category. This person can present probably, right? So that kind of, there's something from each hobby that person has in their DNA that they can be a great creative.
Oh, absolutely. I always say, when I present and talk to students, I always say it's cool to be good at something. It's cool to be interested in something, right? So I always say you have to get your fundamentals down. You have to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
You have an idea. Are you a writer or you art director? Having a pretty good understanding of that role. And then you need to prove that you can do that role at a high level with the work.
Mhm.
And then the third component is being cool, being cool to me is being interested in something and passionate about something. So that's where the side project comes in. So for all the students that are listening that have heard me talk before, that's the cool up portion. And that's where you can go get inspiration from the sideshow gallery and find what you can do on your side. And I think that keeps everybody better as a creative. It keeps you fresh. And we always say, to be a good advertiser, you need to know culture, or you need to be interested in other things other than advertising. So perfect.
And like, I don't think that not every side project has to be some big thing. It can be some smaller thing, some dumb idea for something that you just like want to put out there. Like
you can collect rocks potentially if there's like something interesting there.
Yeah.
Everything comes down to emotion, really. I mean, in advertising and even like, well, TikTok might get taken down, who knows? But the fact that, emotion can transcend something like AI and people can relate, right? Whether it's cringe or whether it's low key or whatever it is, if you can communicate with emotion, you're gonna get your demographic engaged and they're gonna get involved. So if you don't have a passion project outside of just your day job, it just makes me question. There has to be a heart. There has to be a soul, behind the person, the person.
And I get the students. Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, I also think that it's a good way to showcase skills that you may not have been able to show in your day job. So like, for me, one of the things I've really enjoyed about Sideshow is getting to like run the entire team. And we first started this, I was like kind of senior to ACD level, but this let me show that I can manage projects, run a team of like, almost 20 people and get stuff done out the door. And that's not something that like I would have been able to do had I not had a side project that directly showed I could do that. So,
absolutely. And I taught improv for a very long time and presentation skills too. My class is in effective spontaneity, is what I call it. But I've seen really smart ad people holding out like ideas and just shaking. Like there's millions of dollars on the line, and it might be an amazing idea, right? But if somebody is shaking and standing up there, I even saw somebody go into an anxiety attack. Like there really needs to be more skill sets, like for presentational, just on a presentational basis, no matter how much AI comes into things. Because people are afraid and standing up there and presenting even the most valid idea. People really believe your energy. So that has helped me a great deal, just with my background in presenting.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think like when students right now, they might be stressing like, oh, I don't know what to think. I don't know. I'm busy with school. I'm working a job and like, I'm trying to build out a portfolio. I don't have time for a side project. I guess what would you say for them, the students maybe that are trying to break in earlier on?
It shouldn't feel like work. It should be something that you enjoy doing. So like it's something that you look forward to doing. If it's something that you feel like you're dreading working on because it's like another thing that you have to do, then it's probably the wrong idea. But if it's something that like you can do, like there was someone I was mentoring for a little bit and she just really enjoyed making handbags. And so, it's just like, she had like a template, she'd find the different fabrics and, she'd just like, if she was watching TV and just could sit there selling them and like would take photos and put it on her webpage. And it's like, it's something interesting that she does. And it's like almost becomes a little business too, because she can sell these like one of a kind bags.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people would love to do their side project full time one day. Right.
Yeah.
That's always something that's interesting.
You grow into that, but it doesn't.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. You don't have to be the rock star of Etsy. I mean, even if you're building a birdhouse, right, every third weekend, or like I started. I'm not a coloring person, right? I am not an art director, but I started coloring recently, and that's like really forced me to learn to have patience.
Yeah.
As a copywriter, I have none. Right? Where they like, I don't know. There's just something very cocaine about us. So, I have no patience, but the coloring too just has been like soothing for me. And I'm like, oh, that would be a fun project to like do like a freelancer's coloring book or something like that. But it's also just taking yourself out of your comfort zone. That's what I also say when I teach improv as well. It's just, you're doing something outside of your comfort zone. Of course, it's going to feel weird, but it's going to make you grow. The character arc is going to happen because you're forcing yourself to do something uncomfortable.
Beautiful. I guess, what would you say students, aspiring advertisers, people that are just starting out, like, why should they go to the sideshow? What can they do? How can they get involved with this? If they want to submit something, is there a category? Let's speak to them directly real quick.
Yeah. And we have 10 different categories that span just about everything, from performance art to regular art, writing, businesses. Like it's just, we've tried to cover everything. And then we have the catch-all, which is the WTF category that Sunita mentioned. It's poke around it. Like when we changed over from an award show to a gallery format last year, with the idea being that we're here to help showcase the work. And the best way to do that is to make entries free. So we're not, giving away prizes anymore. Besides, like, we will have judges come in occasionally. We haven't yet, just because we haven't had as many submissions lately. But the goal is to, at some point we're going to start bringing judges back in. They'll kind of decide what is like a featured project, which, we'll promote on our platform. We have over 1,200 followers now, which isn't like a ton, but they're all in the ad industry.
Yeah.
Might see your work and really like it. Like when we just kind of did a few posts the other week, and Leslie Pyle, who got a gold for a project she was working on called Pile of Memories. Like we posted her thing there and it got like 50 likes on the page, and like all these people who, may not have been familiar with the project before, like all of a sudden were aware of it. And she had turned, because of her win, she turned this like small collection of essays into a full book. And like, so she was able to, probably get some sales from her book that way too. So it's like, it just is helping people get exposure for the creativity they have that may not be recognized from their day job. That's really all it is. Like, how do we help people?
I freaking love it. And the site's beautiful.
Thank
So
you. It's an evergreen site.
It's great.
brought on a new person last year, Sarah Ross and me, who like,
So great.
she is a creative director for UX UI stuff. Just brilliant at what she does, and like helped us figure out the entire system. And we rebuilt everything from the ground up to kind of work with where we wanted to go, because the old site was kind of limiting in that regard. We couldn't have done it without her. Like, she kept the pressure on to actually get the project done.
Yeah. I think there's so many lessons from this episode, like building a dream team from the beginning. You had the vision, you found the right people, and you kept going with that, and you were able to launch this thing. I think students, or aspiring advertisers, find your dream team, whether it's your creative partner to work in your portfolio, or your ad clubs, or your local AAF, or whatever it might be, and reach out. Go to social media, go on Fishbowl. I think tapping into this community now with the Zoom and online ability to connect makes it easier. And yeah, you can really create something that's worthwhile. So I think this is a beautiful.
Like, real quick for the students, I invented this thing called the Zapper for myself. And it's very easy for any artist to have like bad days, right? Like, and no one can psych themselves out negatively like a creative person can, right? We're creative. We're very creative. We're going to find the worst things to think about ourselves. We're going to be so creative with our imaginations to think about horrible situations that are never going to happen, right? So the Zapper for me, both in acting and advertising, is if I'm having a really bad day or something is just like, I'm just feeling like the blues, I will find one thing I can do. Can I send an email right now to someone I can reach out to? Can I create something right now, put it up on TikTok, as long as it's still up? Can I, whatever that is, and I zap that feeling. And I can't begin to tell you how many times that I've done that. I've even reached out, like I used to reach out to casting directors, and I got called in for Louis, right? So like, that zapper, it kind of shows yourself that you have some kind of control over a world that is like so uncontrollable, right? And so it makes you feel positive, even though you're shaking when you're sending that email to that director. That's when you know you're on the right path. Because even if you don't hear from them or whatever, you're on their radar or some. So yeah, I always like say, like jokingly, like someone's like, fuck Sunita Deshpande, right? At least they're thinking, fuck Sunita Deshpande, right? That my name is still like in their head, like that I reached out to them. So you're going to be on their radar. So I would just say like that fuck it mentality. If your students can stop talk like that, but like, it's really that just fuck it.
Yeah. Like that little momentum too. Like, what can I do right now? The bare minimum. What's the one little thing?
Yeah.
And I have something similar. I'll tell you offline of what I do. I have something kind of funny, but I'll share later.
Right.
Can I give one anecdote that I think the students might appreciate?
Sure.
It's not my anecdote. It's one that I heard about, but it involved Lee Clow and Chuck McBride. At some point, it was either the late 90s or early 2000s. Lee Clow had been recognized as like the greatest creative of all time. He's had a prolific career, or he had a prolific career. He's retired now, but they're like on a flight somewhere together, and Chuck he's had his own amazing career, and he runs Cutwater now. But he's just like, Lee, what do you think about being named the greatest creative of all time? And Lee kind of comments back, I wouldn't say greatest, I'd say most persistent. And the meaning being that like, he just never gave up and never let, like, because everyone's going to hit failure, and it's how you respond to it that's going to determine your career. There are so many people who like, they'll get laid off for the first time, and there's like, I'm done with advertising, and then leave. And it's like, well, yeah, then your advertising story is done the moment you get a job outside of advertising. But if you keep fighting and clawing your way, hopefully it'll work out. Like, the current market is a little bit different, but in general.
Now I want to add on to that, because I've been reading about Stoicism a lot lately and learning about, I never learned about philosophy that much in college and stuff. I wish I had, but Marcus Aurelius and like just the way like the Stoics approach every single day, it is so helpful for creatives. It is so helpful for sensitive people. Like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, I do like the everyday, I have like a journal, and I like do the Marcus Aurelius stuff because it takes you out of the emotion and it just takes you into the objective practicality. And then you can't feel sad or bad about things. You're just like doing. But also, Gino, I want to tell you, and I'm going to embarrass Josh, that if you build it, they will come. Come on, with WeTransfer.
Oh, so this is something we didn't really talk about publicly, but like right after we launched, we got a write up in Adweek, and some agency representing WeTransfer like wrote us and wanted to like throw $100,000 at us to do some kind of promotion, which is just like way more than we could do anything with, because
this was like the first week that we came up with that sideshow.
Yeah. It was just like, we don't have any metrics. We don't know how many people are going to enter. Like we can't provide any KPIs because we just don't know. No one's ever done anything like this before. And so we came up with some ideas and wrote back to them and be like, look, we don't want $100,000. But here's some stuff that we could do for 25, and like, pick your poison. And they ended up wanting something bigger. But it was just kind of like, I think it was a testament to all the work the team had done, that someone saw this article because someone at Adweek recognized the value in what we were doing, and we were doing it in a way that looked well packaged, that this other group came and saw it and like agreed that we looked more professional than maybe they were expecting.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So I mean, there is definitely some truth in like putting out an image of success and not just kind of half-assing things.
And doing it with passion, right? Like this was our passion, right? So it was just that Field of Dreams stuff is Kevin Costner, one of our best actors, it's legit.
Except for Waterworld, man.
Yeah, but Yellowstone, come on.
How can people reach out to you? I know we covered a lot of good stuff, but if they would have any more questions about the sideshow or either your journeys, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So the sideshow email is info@sideshow, thesideshow.org, whatever our website is.
Yep.
And then
we're also on Instagram, right?
I'm off of social media, actually.
I'm on social media. I'm Lucky Sunita at Instagram.
If anyone wants to message me directly, just josh@joshdweiss.com.
Wonderful. Well, then I will leave it there. I think we covered a lot of good stuff. I encourage everybody to reach out, and I can help facilitate those connections too. So yeah, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. And I'm excited to keep on watching and advocating this for our students or aspiring advertisers. So great stuff.
It's always very cool to get inspired. So very excited for you guys to see our Evergreen Sideshow site.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.